I was not doing as terribly as I thought I was. And that fear and shame stopped me from asking even basic questions like, I'm a little bit of trouble with this. Because I couldn't get past judging myself. And so I was afraid of judgment from anyone else. I was very afraid of it. Years, I could have asked you, and you said more than once that if I needed the help, you could help me. You didn't know what my situation was. You were just saying it. And I was like, girl, I know, thank girl, I know, I appreciate you. We ain't here together. Da, da, da. And I was like, I ain't telling her nothing. But it was that irrational fear of the judgment because I was judging myself so harshly. Right. And it was when we went out to lunch and then you came by the house. And I remember this distinctly. This is when you did start coaching. This was a couple years ago. It was shortly before the pandemic. Okay. And I was sitting on the stairs and I forget precisely what we were talking about, but I was already starting to feel like expenses were starting to creep up on me again. I still wasn't sure where money was going. I still wasn't sure. I was like, I know my balances are low, but I couldn't tell you what exactly I'm doing in a given month. Still have that very, very monthly focus, which is another thing I learned is that's
you are more than 30 days. That's gonna be my new slogan. You are more than 30 days.
30 days. Because it doesn't add up. It doesn't. And we were getting ready to go on a trip. And we're like, I'm here when you're ready. Something like that, you said. And in my mind, I was like, there was a critical part of me that was saying, you're not going to tell, because when she find out what you've been doing, she's going to be like, dang, that was the thing I had in my head. And then this other part of me was like, how long are we going to keep doing this? How long are we going to do you paid it off, and now it's back, and now you got to cut this, and now you got to do it again. How long are we going to keep doing it? We're going to keep doing this? 6 figure, and we're going to keep doing it? And I was like, I can't take this anymore. I can't take it anymore. There's stuff I want to do. I don't know if I can do it because I don't know what's available to me. I know what my paycheck is, but I don't know what's available to me. I was in that cycle of pull back, pull back, pull back, pull back, pull back. Then I would get mad
and cut out everything. Yep. You're working this job, you're making this great salary, but you can't do nothing because you cut out everything.
Everything. And I'd get mad. And so then I started doing stupid stuff. Like, I'm going to Target, I'm getting this from Target, I don't care. Because I want it. I don't care.
It's called the stupid stuff. It's so common though, because after you've restricted yourself for so long, anything that feels oppressed too long, you need freedom. And your budget was oppressed. And you said, I'm going to Target, I'm breaking out of here.
And that's what happened. Yeah. And so then finally I knew you were working on this for years because we've been talking about it for years. We were talking about your original not interest in entrepreneurship and then feeling called to move into this space and to work with Black women to navigate through this process, and then you just pull the pull and the call into doing it, and then you're starting to do it. And what made me finally break down after that conversation on my stairs in the house was, this has been your friend for like 15 years. You scared to tell her you need help? Really? And I was like, okay, well, all right, okay. Hi, I need coaching help because I thought I knew what I was doing. Maybe I don't. My name's Joy. Help me out. So then I was like, Malika, help. I'll do the coaching. Let's do the coaching. Because I was just beyond just being sick of doing what I've been doing. I was ready to do what I wanted. And I was like, how do I do that? I'm going to do what I want.
So you were running through a cycle for years, the same cycle for years, and it clearly wasn't working. And making more money wasn't fixing the root of the issue. All right. So you finally decided to get coaching with me. I was so happy. I was like, yeah.
Him too.
So how did coaching help you? What did you learn about yourself, and what did you start doing differently?
Well, I think that's what I appreciated a lot about how you do coaching is before we started diving into budgets, which we don't actually do when we coach with you, but
I am the anti-budget personal finance coach.
So before we dived into numbers and what are you doing and where's that spending and could you optimize, before we dove into that, we were talking about why do you do the things that you do? What matters to you? What do you value? What makes you feel good? What would you, if you could do whatever you wanted and spend or whatever you wanted and have whatever you wanted, what is it?
What does that look like to you?
Yes. And so at first I was like, girl, what are we doing?
I'm gonna get through this. So you thought I was some pie in the sky, touchy-feely type coach that really wasn't getting to the point.
Because I knew you and you were Capricorn. I know that's not what I know it's not. I'm like, okay. I had so much resistance, so much fear, so much self-criticism that when we started with that stuff, values, history, how did your family handle these things? What lessons did you learn from mom, dad, grandma, aunts, uncle, whoever? What lessons did you learn that are impacting what decisions you're making now? All of that was starting to poke and peel away at all of these things that I had built up over years. And I was like, I want to go here.
Questions. I knew you as a person, but I didn't know your relationship with money. And I needed to pull back the layers to understand that side of joy. And it's what we pulled back and what we uncovered with the work we did in the initial sessions that led to the success you have now, because we had to come to terms with those things. That's what was causing your cycle. And once we were able to unpack that, then I had something to work with. When a person comes to me and they want to get straight to the nitty-gritty, they want to get straight to the money, I'm not a coach that's going to tell you, well, do this, do that, and do this, and give you a spreadsheet and a blueprint and say, run off and be fruitful. Like I always say, I can give you the blueprint for free. You wouldn't know what to do with it unless we did the work together that matters. So I needed to pull back those layers and trigger a few not so good feelings so I could find what I needed to be able to help you. So yeah.
But that's what I needed because I had the blueprints. I followed them.
Yeah.
I did the things. I declared victory.
And yes, then twice.
I saw what I needed. I was very hesitant. I was reluctant for all the reasons I said. Mm-hmm. But then once we started to do that, and I had to think about it and feel it, which is the other thing, feel it, not run from it.
Those feelings are hard.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't want to sit there. You don't want to sit there. And then the other thing that you did that I was not doing, and therefore, and because I wasn't sharing it with anybody, no one was doing it for me or with me because I was keeping it all to myself. You kept saying, oh, you did really well. That's great. Most people don't do that. And I was sitting there like, no, you're not listening. I'm telling you about all the things I flubbed up and all the things I did wrong. And you're like, no,
that's
you
great.
Did this. And you did that. That's impressive. Most people don't do that. And I'm looking at you like, no, it's not. Because
You did it today when you were talking about how you screwed up buying a house. But as you're talking, you were like, yeah, I did research. I read this book. I'm like, but wait a minute. You said you did it all wrong. Hold on.
I still think I did. But that's the kind of thing that would happen in our coaching sessions. That I certainly wasn't doing mentally for myself. And like I said, because I was not sharing this with anybody. No one could.
Good coach
no one
about your greatness.
Yes. The perspective, because I didn't have that. All I had was, you keep messing this up and you don't know what you're doing. That was it. That was the perspective and the reference. That's all I had. Right. And as you started to share those data points with me and started to point out the things I did right, once we got to the blueprint and the pathway and the step 1, step 2, step 3, once we got to that, I was able to pull out of that shame spiral enough to receive that. Because I think if you had given it to me without that, I still would have been in the same cycle. It wouldn't have mattered. Yep. Because there was some really kind of internal work. There were things I had to be willing to receive, things I had to be willing to say to myself. It's like, you're holding it down. You're doing really well. I had to release if you need help, it's because you're doing things wrong. And it's like, that's not how it works. That's how you build. I'm good at this now. I get that next level coaching, and now I know this. Then I build and build. It's about building up, not about admitting failure. And I had to get through that.
Yeah. And coaching is not just for people who are struggling. You know, you don't have to be struggling to get coaching. Coaching just makes you more aware of your greatness and makes you realize what's possible and all the things that you could be doing that you don't see at your own level. So if a coach is not making you aware of your greatness, that's not the coach for you.
So in working with you, and even now, when I'm not sure, or when I'm like, what am I doing? Rather than start tearing into myself, I'm just like, well, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm taking care of this, I'm taking care of this business here, but maybe I don't understand this so much, I need to learn more. So then rather than beat myself up, it's just more of, I'm holding it down, this is going really well, but I may need some help with something else, or there may be some more I need to learn that stuff.
Right. And another thing I remember from our sessions, and I say this because a financial coach is not a therapist. So I was not acting in the capacity of your therapist. I was just helping you to pull back the layers to identify some of the challenges that you had, right? And the things that were within my area of expertise, I could help you work through them. But there were several things I would suggest. This is probably something you want to talk with your therapist about, right? So you could work through those things, because they were also some of the things that was hindering your progress. But a financial coach should always stay in their lane and not try to act as your therapist.
Well, I was in therapy when I finally started coaching. Right. I started going to therapy not long after we bought the house, because I also had some deaths in the family that were it was really hard. And so I think I know I was doing it for sure. We often think of money as this thing that's completely separate from our actual life. It's not, where all of it's not complete. We are who we are. It's all together. It's not.
Every aspect of our lives touches our money.
Yes, it's not all compartmentalized. Right. That's not how it actually works. Right. And so I wasn't seeing the connections, because to me, that was a whole other thing that had nothing to do with it. Right. And that's not the case. Yeah. And so I was in therapy, and then in coaching, touching things where I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And your therapist had to work together.
I was like, I see some things I gotta bring and talk through. So coaching. Before coaching, phantom math, fantasy budget.
Restricting your life.
Right. The continued cycle of austerity and cutting and misery, and then anger, fury, resentment, and overspending, and then the debt cycle starts all over again. After coaching, aside from actual tools, which I'll talk about, it put the pause button on the cycle and made me take a different perspective of what was actually happening. And then taking that perspective, that seeing that, pulling back and looking higher above it, pulling not that kind of tunnel vision down in the trenches, but standing and actually looking at what I have done, what I had available to me, and what was possible. Then it was like, okay.
What advice would you give other Black women who are watching us that may be in the exact same situation that you were in? They're listening to your story and they're like, yep, I do the same thing. Yep, I can relate to her. They see themselves in you. They self-judge. They make good money, but they're still in that constant cycle of taking one step forward, 2 steps back, and they don't know how to break that cycle. So what words of wisdom would you share with them today?
The first and primary thing I would say is, sis, be gentle with yourself. Because if you can't do that, you're not actually going to do anything to change your situation, because you'll feel so bad about yourself. In some ways, you'll feel like you maybe deserve the struggle.
That hurts my heart. It hurts my heart.
It's true. It's the shame cycle. So one, be gentle with yourself. One. And then two, recognize how fortunate you are and how much you work to get to this position where you do have all that income, because it means now you've got opportunity. It's not like you're in a situation where every dollar, every minute, is a battle of survival. Because when that's where you are, there's not a lot of opportunity. You're going to have to make decisions that we may think are questionable, but if you're in survival, you got to do what you got to do. Mm-hmm. If you're in a position where there is income and there is abundant income, you have opportunities. You've got opportunities, now you can start creating some room. Ask for help. It's been the hardest thing for me. It continues to be. But if you just let yourself get that vulnerable. Creating that space, suddenly there's things that come into focus like this. And you're like, okay. I can do this. I can take care of that. I didn't know this was something I had available to me. If I take advantage of that, and then all of a sudden, all these dominoes start falling. But you have to first be willing to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I had to be willing to tell somebody, show them what I've been doing before I could see that it wasn't as bad as I thought, and that there were pathways to get where I wanted to go. But first, I had to admit it. I had to admit it first.
Admitting it to someone who is not going to judge you. Because you don't want to share that with someone that will add to the self-judgment that you already have going on in your mind. So being selective about who you admit that to.
And open that up in a safe place. Yes. So I feel like do those things because, like I said before, someone could give you the blueprint, someone could give you the path, someone could give you the step-by-step map to get from A to Z. Mm-hmm. And it could be right in front of you, A, B, C, D, laid out. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. I didn't.
And even if you do it, because you're not fixing the real issue, you're going to find yourself in the same cycle over and over and over again. So while you think you're doing something to change your situation and you're declaring that victory, like Joy did twice, you're going to find yourself in that same situation over and over again. Same cycle.
Yep, it is. Malika, you've said to me for years that it's a mindset and mind. You said it over and over again for years. I was like, yeah.
Most people do.
A little. And now I'm like, well, no, obviously, because those were the things I had to do for things to finally be different.
Yes, yes. And the tools are just tools. They don't make sense. You don't know how to apply them to your life until you have the mindset to use them properly. Okay? Yes, yes.
That's right.
Joy, thank you. Thank you so much for being transparent. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with all of us. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and thank you for asking me to do it.
All right. Have a great day. Talk to you later.
Bye, baby.